Well, I wanted to talk to you guys and seek some advice on how to handle a situation that happened to me this week and how I might do better. So I posted to my Facebook that I wasn't feeling well, and my very, very religious nephew replied that I would never feel well until I accepted God into my life.
Oh.
And I reassured him that it was just a bug and that I'd feel good in a couple days, no God needed.
The bug of Satan.
He continued to, let's call it, testify about what God has done in his life and how I need to have him in mind. And he's just worried about my eternal soul. I tried to be gentle with him, and I kind of used him some street epistemology to ask him why he feels like it's God that's working in his life, and not just chance that causes the things to happen, or his decisions and choices. But I find it's kind of hard to have these conversations with families and loved ones who are not open to change. So I guess I'm just asking what you guys would recommend on how to handle things like that when you don't even seek out these interactions, they find you.
You want to go first, Jamie?
Well, I mean, it in many ways depends on the person you're talking to, right? So relatively recently, one of my immediate family members asked to see one of the shows that I was on, right? He was like, oh, well, you're always talking about this. You're always at the Free Thought Library at 1507 West Koenig Lake in Austin, Texas.
Austin, Texas, and we do have a live audience in the back. Woo! If you're in the area, you're absolutely welcome to come in and see us live every Sunday at 1 o'clock Central. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Occasionally, I lose the ability to enunciate or pronounce anything, apparently.
Your cousin's saying that you are spending a lot of time at the ACA.
I didn't say
Caffeine.
cousin. I said an immediate family member.
Oh, immediate family member.
Well, I mean, everyone's a cousin,
I guess.
to some degree.
The caffeine is kicking in. I'm like ready to rock. Let's
right.
do it. Go.
I just imagined your pupils going whoop, and just like, yeah, and so it was really interesting to sit next to a couch to someone that I've known pretty much my whole life, and be like, oh, is this gonna offend this religious person? What am I gonna? And then we didn't have like a lengthy conversation after it, but I got a kind of impression of where they are. So it depends on who it is, how well you know them, considering the fact that there's a relationship there that presumably you don't want to lose. That affects the way that you speak to a person a lot. It's one of the benefits of this show. Like the reason that we can have conversations that are more heated or less heated or take a form that like I couldn't have with someone that I've known my whole life is that when someone calls in, oftentimes I'm just meeting them then. And that's the whole basis of our, interactions is, oh, we're calling to talk about this. And that's what makes it entirely appropriate. And so the fact that your nephew is bringing it up and is bringing it up on Facebook are factors, whether you want to talk to him textually or, verbally or in person, are factors. But really, if you're trying to respond to him and say that, it depends in large part about how pithy you want it to be, because I came up with a couple of ideas for that, but that's because, I don't know, it's part of my job. Well, I mean, I guess I haven't given you any.
I tried to keep it fairly friendly because he is my nephew. He's only 20, so I mean he's not fully cooked in my opinion. So I think he has room to change. So instead of like beating him over the head and questioning everything he's ever known, because I mean he was brought up and indoctrinated that way, I wanted to more plant a seed and make him think, well, maybe these things are chance, maybe, but I'm not used to, and my friends and family know, that it's probably not a good idea to come at me, so to speak, because they're probably going to hear things they don't want to hear.
Yeah.
And, then their cognitive dissonance kicks in, and they don't, they just kind of back away. And that's kind of how it usually goes.
Yeah.
But, so I don't necessarily want to confront him so much
Yeah.
as I want to like figure out should we engage more? Like if let's say that he was going back and forth. Should I go that pithy route and try to just like, hammer home, more points? Or should we just drop a seed, let it go, and then hope there's a next time where we can drop some more?
Well,
It depends on, it depends on what your, for lack of more neutral language, what your win condition is, right? Like if what you're trying to achieve is a Facebook conversation that is interesting and would, right, so they say it on the Atheist Experience all the time. They take the calls and they have the conversations, not just for the caller, but for the audience as well. And so if it's on
That's
Facebook,
true.
there's a larger audience. If your goal is to try and reach him directly, in particular, one, I think that also makes something that people want to see that can be, a crowd pleaser for a larger audience. This show, but I would say planting the seed is good. But if you're trying to, like, is it something where it's like I don't want him harassing me or bringing this up all the time? And then does he live near you, or do you have other?
He does live near me, and there's a little bit of a caveat here that he has, mental illness that I think personally his religion makes worse, because he's subject to things like delusions. And so I try not to push too hard because of things like that too. But I also think that losing his religion is what's best for him.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like
So-
to step in, if that's all right.
Yeah, I would just say there's, there's.
I try to go gently, so maybe
Yeah.
that's the best thing to do is just to be gentle with it.
I think that's best, but I feel like planting those seeds and presumably, sorry, I talk too much,
Yeah.
but I would say like presumably there was a diagnosis by a medical professional and
Yes.
highlighting how that as a means for people to know things like would be good.
And I want to navigate this. I want to start off by saying, Jenny, you were a Christian, right?
I was? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was. I only came out a few years ago, actually.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I remember when I was a Christian, I didn't just show up and say the words and walk out. I was on fire for the Lord. I was in it. I really, truly believed it. And I really... and it wasn't only recently that I started remembering things that were kind of ongoing in the church, and a lot of them were just manufactured problems. And one of the big sayings is Christianity breaks your leg to sell you a crutch, right?
Right.
And it's not just the health thing. It's issues. There's so many different things wrapped around sexual repression that get brought up, and people say they're addicted to porn, or people are saying, they struggle with their thoughts and they're policing each other that way. You have support groups. I remember support groups as a teenage boy. All we could think about was sex. Come on, but it was a really big deal. It was a really big deal for us to stay away from things that were secular, to make sure that we weren't listening to music that was possibly backmasked with satanic verses, that we made sure that we looked for the 666 and all of the graphics and all of that. And I know it seems like I'm going off tangent with this, but where I'm getting with it is that it is completely within the Christian mindset, and it's not just Christian mindset, it's the religious mindset, that you are fundamentally broken.
Right.
And that
Well, I mean,
doesn't...
they want to keep you down. They want to keep you, oppressed and suppressed so that you don't figure it out.
And it boosts itself up. I mean, that idea, I'm feeling bad, well, that's because you don't have Jesus. I would go so far as to say that for most people, that's a learned response. It's most likely not something he came up with on his own. And
well, I mean, I just have to say for myself, you know, I felt like kind of bad at first when I first got out of the religion, because we talked about this in the last time I called, that, you know, the indoctrination causes trauma. But once I got finally pushed past that, I got to say, I've never felt more free and more happy in my life than I did after I lost the religion. But it's hard for someone who's in it to see that that's a possibility. And you're absolutely right that they keep perpetuating that idea that you need it. And it's very hard to break someone of that, but I'm sure going to try with him, because I really think it would improve his life.
I do, and I think suggestions would be to model what a rational mindset is. Definitely, when you see something, especially if it's ancillary to his cause, but uses, you know, skepticism to get there, talk about
that's a very good idea. He's into rap music. He's you know, into that artistry, and I know there's some atheist rap. So maybe that's
Great and Square.
Maybe that's the ticket in.
Great and Square is amazing. I listen to Great and Square. Please check out Great and Square.
Yeah, so maybe that's a great idea. Thank you.
Absolutely.
That's a really great idea. Thank you so much. That will help a lot, I think.
And when you open that door up, when you're able to start those conversations and utilize the methodology of skepticism, you're able to
skeptically examine everything.
Well, you're able to let him go home and think about maybe applying that elsewhere.
Right.
There are a lot of different places and a lot of different approaches, and I'm not going to say any one of them is wrong. Some are more likely to alienate you from your nephew, but it takes all types, and who knows what's going to work for him. But you ultimately aren't responsible for converting him.
Right.
But you can be a positive
influence. And I'm not trying to force his decision, but I want him to understand that there are other options that he's never been exposed to, because the truth is he's never been exposed to it. He's always been in church since birth.
Oh, yeah. Give it time. The age 20 years old is such a big age for learning about the world. And just those next couple of years, his peers are going to be partying. His peers are going to be, you know, opening up their worldviews. And so as long as you can help him spread out and see a couple things, he'll be able to take on a lot of that on his own, too.
Have him stand on the pier and look out at the ocean.
And if anything, even if he does stay a Christian, it will help him empathize with non-Christians. And it'll help him get the tools to be able to navigate his life in a better way. So I really don't see any negatives.
Even if he just stops thinking of people as lost souls into saying, okay, that person has holds another opinion than I do, would be a huge step.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So rock on.
All right. I thank you guys so much. You gave me some great ideas, so I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Love you guys.
Love you too. Bye.
Bye. I would also say, in part of that conversation, I should have grabbed it before Janet hopped off, but
I should not have hung up, but I'm sorry.
No. You had no idea that I wanted to say something else, although that's usually a safe assumption. What I would say is that there was a point where you guys were talking about how the religion beats people down, and it's it breaks your leg to sell you a crutch, although really it tells you your leg is broken so that it can put it in a cast and sell you a crutch, and then when you say, well, I can't walk without this crutch, the explanation is, of course, that's because you're wearing this stupid cast. It's unnecessary.
Really fleshing out that analogy.
I'm on fire today.
All right.
I'm on fire for reason. But I would say that at one point there was the statement like, oh, they want to beat you down so that you don't figure it out. And I would say, I don't really think that for the most part that's like a decision or a thought process that's happening in the minds of believers. I feel like, I can't remember the author or the exact title, but it's like the faith virus.
The God virus.
The God virus.
Dr. Darrell Ray.
Yeah. The God
really
virus.
good.
And so like thinking of religions and these things as like entities that exist with self-preservation that in a way go through different kinds of evolution almost.
I mean, that's the original meme theory, isn't it?
Well, do you mean like as described by Dawkins?
As described and claimed by Dawkins before it got taken over by the internet?
Well, I mean, the different applications of the same word.
Concept.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like the internet was taking it over in the same way
Oh,
that the
no,
concept of...
I'm talking about your actual point of...
yeah.
The
I have a lot to say
evolving
about words
concepts.
being pigeonholed. But yes, the evolving concept. So I don't think it's that like, oh, the pastor is trying to beat you down so that you stay necessarily, as much as that's the practice in the religion, because religions that don't have that practice die out. As a sort of like, oh, okay, well, this animal has claws and can run fast because that was necessary for it to stay alive. And,
Okay.
And to eat things, and now the cheetah is the fastest.
Okay. I really got nothing to add, bro.
Cool.
That's just kind of like, you're not giving me any meat here.
Yeah, I know. For a second, I was like, oh, he could say something, but he isn't, because he wants me to...
To flounder on air.
Well, no, I was going to say to
I would never do that to you.
STFU.
I would never do that to you.
You might never do that to me on air, but...